Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from A Man Talks FPL SC. In today's video, we're going through the Game Week 16 team selection and a bit of a Game Week 16 preview as well. Lots of big developments have happened in Game Week 16, so the team selection is going to look a little bit different, but I'll go through my kind of current thinking on what my transfer moves are going to be for Game Week 16. I do also recommend watching my Game Week 16 initial thoughts video, as I went a little bit more in depth in terms of my Game Week 15 score and my kind of more medium to long term thoughts. In this video, I'll probably keep it a little bit more succinct, a little bit more short term, but I will also add a few extra things in there, so definitely stay around. If you enjoy the video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and do please consider subscribing if you do enjoy the content on the channel. But let's get straight into it. So as I kind of touched on in the introduction, I'm not going to go too in-depth into how I went into Game Week 15, as I went a little bit more in-depth in my Game Week 16 initial thoughts video, but just to kind of wrap it up, the new addition in terms of point scoring was Ramsdale, only the 2 points. Frustratingly, Arsenal weren't able to keep a clean sheet away to Everton. To be honest, the game management from Arsenal overall was pretty poor. They were 1-0 up, and I thought they could have closed the game out. They were definitely on top, but they just sit back and let Everton kind of take advantage. And they had two goals ruled out for offside from Richarlison. Eventually, the third one did stand, so the clean sheet got wiped out for Ramsdale. He did make 3 saves, which is the benefit with him, that he typically does get enough saves to at least gain 1 or 2 save points per week. So yeah, the extra 2 points to get a Game Week 15 score of 46. It was a red arrow to 15.3k, but to be honest, with the transfers that I've made and thinking about for this game week, and all the carnage that's happening around with COVID issues, which we'll get onto a little bit later, my team overall has not been too heavily affected by that, so I do feel in a bit of a fortunate position. And so just to quickly highlight the bench as well, not too much to speak of there. It was 2 all around, and I made the 1 free transfer in Game Week 15, which was Ivan Toney out for Emmanuel Dennis. At the time that I bought in Dennis, he was a little bit cheaper. He now currently is, I think, very close in price to King, so that's definitely something that, if they were very close in price now, I probably would opt to go for King. But when I brought in Dennis, he was a bit cheaper, so it created extra funds for myself to do some future moves. That's why I made that move from Toney to Dennis, and obviously looking back now, very fortunate I made that move in Game Week 15, because now we know that Toney is out with COVID, and he's definitely going to be missing the game against Watford, and he hasn't been ruled out entirely out of Game Week 17, but obviously is a doubt. So I'm very happy that I've made that switch now, created some funds. So let's see how I'm going to shape up for Game Week 16. So if you watched my Game Week 16 initial thoughts video, you would know that I made a very, very early transfer of Rafinha out for Bernardo Silva. I kind of touched on in more depth as to why I opted for Bernardo Silva. The main reason is that I just feel like he's going to have the greatest chance of playing the most minutes for Man City. He didn't play in the Champions League midweek fixture for Man City. He got rested, and so I think that he's hopefully in a good position now to play the next 3 games for Man City that they have a tight fixture congestion, and 3 of those games are pretty solid. You've got Wolves at home this particular game week, then you've got Leeds, and then you've got Newcastle. So 2 games that I'm very, very excited to be owning a Man City attacker for. The underlying stats aren't as good as, say, like a Gundogan or a Phil Foden. To be honest, it's one of these instances where, I didn't originally get on the bandwagon in terms of, I feel like we've had a bit of a trend with Man City midfielders this season so far, where we initially had like Ferran Torres was a big bandwagon. We had Phil Foden. Like briefly, we had Grealish as a talking point. We also had KDB sometimes, and then also Gundogan. Finally, we've got onto a new one in Bernardo Silva. This one I feel the most confident in, though, because with this tight schedule, I know he's probably going to be playing hopefully the most minutes out of the Man City attackers. And his form is just undeniable. The comments that are made by Pep about him just look very, very positive. So that's why I went for the early move. Rafinha's got tough fixtures moving forward. And as we'll get on into a little bit, Leeds look like they're having a few injury problems. So I don't think Leeds are in a very good position, unfortunately. So I was more than happy to make that sell of Rafinha to Bernardo and catch a few price rises. So the new addition you will notice for the team is I'm going to take out Harry Kane for Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I haven't actually made this move yet. I'm waiting until I get all the information, because there's so much stuff happening in Game Week 16, but I'm very, very likely going to be switching Harry Kane to Cristiano Ronaldo. It seems as though the Spurs game is going to be called off, and Kane hasn't been performing that well anyway. And just looking at Ronaldo, I just see him as a player who's a bit of a flat track bully. He's got a nice run of games coming up. To be honest, I'm not actually as concerned about his minutes and his potential rotation moving forward, because I think he's going to be managed well enough. And I think some other news around AFCON means we potentially might actually be looking at him a little bit more closely as a good captaincy option. So I'm happy enough to go with Ronaldo, switching that move from Kane to Ronaldo. It's a very, very easy move. I've got enough money in the bank to do it. And so on the side there, you can see the 1 free transfer. I had 2 free transfers going into Game Week 16. And so both the Rafinha and Kane out for Bernardo and Ronaldo moves are for free. and so that leaves 0.5 million in the bank, pending that Ronaldo doesn't go up in price anymore or Kane doesn't drop in price anymore as well. If I see another price change happening, I probably will just make the switch anyway, just so I'm not losing out on too much value. Those are basically 99% going to be my 2 free transfers coming into Game Week 16. And looking at the team, I'm very, very happy with how it looks. The defense, I think, all playing at home. Ramsdale at home to Southampton, I think is a great fixture, potential for a clean sheet, but as I touched on, you can always get save points as well. The 4 defenders that we've got there, very happy as well with them. Aston Villa at home for Liverpool. I don't think it's the easiest fixture now that they've kind of had a rejuvenation with Gerrard coming in. Obviously, I think the occasion is going to be quite exciting as well. Gerrard returning to Liverpool, managing a different team, but Liverpool are just that good of a team at home. I do expect potentially some attacking returns for Trent, and a clean sheet is always on the cards there as well. 2 Chelsea defenders, James and Alonso at home to Leeds. With Leeds injury woes, I think a clean sheet is definitely on the cards here, and some good, hopefully, attacking return potential as well for the pair of them. Alonso didn't play in the midweek Champions League fixture. I think James actually played the full 90 minutes, and he also played in centre midfield, so it'll be interesting to see if he potentially gets rotated, but obviously I'm not going to be taking him out, and I'll be playing him against Leeds at home, just because the last thing I'd want is to put him on the bench and then find out that he's starting, and then I'd be sitting behind the sofa about a player that I own, with a great matchup. So I'll be playing him for sure, but maybe there's going to be some rotation. And Cancelo at home to Wolves, I think, again, very good fixture from a defensive point of view. Wolves didn't look the best in attack against Liverpool, and I think Man City's defense is even better, so I'm hopeful for a clean sheet as well for Cancelo, and always some attacking returns on the cards. In terms of my midfield, so Bernardo Silva, I kind of gave all my reasoning as to why I brought him in. Very happy with that fixture against Wolves. To be honest, I don't think it's actually the best fixture for an attacking point of view. I think Wolves pretty decent at the back. I'd only see maybe, if I had to predict that game, it'd probably be 2-0, but hopefully Bernardo gets a goal and assist, so obviously going to be playing Bernardo in this fixture. Liverpool at home, so Salah has got the captaincy, and Jota at home to Liverpool. Pretty happy with the pair of them. To be honest, I have briefly thought about maybe putting the captaincy on Ronaldo. It just seems like a good, it's a great fixture for Ronaldo as well. But given the fact that Salah is in just ridiculous form, playing at home I think was the one that edged it for me. You could also argue the effective ownership as well, but Salah, I think I'm going to stick with him for captaincy, but it's nice to know that I've got another really good captaincy consideration in Ronaldo. Now looking at the front 3 as well, we've got Antonio away to Burnley. Again, I think that's a very good fixture. I'm not going to be looking to get in Jared Bowen this particular game week, but he definitely is my thoughts, so I'm happy enough that I still have got some West Ham attacking coverage. Antonio obviously has dropped off quite a bit in the past few weeks, but hopefully that's just correlated to the tough fixtures. He's now got nice fixtures, so this is the time that we wanted to hold him for. So I'm hopeful that our trust can be repaid. He did get an assist last game week, so let's hope for some more attacking returns. Ronaldo away to Norwich. I mean, I'm just looking at it as he's a flat track bully. Hopefully we get a brace here. I think I'm very happy to bring in Ronaldo this particular game week. Now my final decision actually for the team was, I'm actually at the moment playing Dennis away to Brentford in comparison to Mbeumo, who I've actually got on the bench, who's at home to Watford. So I do see this game potentially as high scoring. I don't think either defense is very good. I just have a little bit more faith in the Watford attack in comparison to the Brentford attack, especially if Brentford are going to be without Ivan Toney. They looked better in the second half against Leeds, but I feel like that was also due in part to Calvin Phillips being out. I think Watford, I do favour their attack just a little bit more, so I do think I'm going to be playing with Dennis, but obviously if there's any rotation, potentially Mbeumo can come on the field. Unbelievably, I'm not entirely comfortable having Mbeumo on the bench there, but that's just what I've got at the moment. I can't really see anyone else in my starting 11 who I'd drop for Mbeumo, but obviously that's a great first sub, so if there's any rotation, we've got a good option on the bench there, but I'll probably make a final call on that closer to the deadline, whether I play Dennis or Mbeumo, but at the moment that's my initial thoughts on that. So we're looking at the rest of the bench there. We've got Livramento away to Arsenal. I don't think he's going to be the best bench defender moving forward, but obviously I'm not looking to make any particular moves there this game week. And then we've got Brownhill as well on third bench at home to West Ham. So as I kind of touched on, I'm feeling very fortunate that at the moment I'm not too hit hard by any of this COVID news with the likes of Leicester and Spurs, and so I'm able to still make my free transfers. No hits needed this week, which I think is actually going to be a really big plus, because I think there's going to be a lot of hits taken with a lot of people with Son, Kane, even like Sanchez or Dunk or Duffy. Leicester are having some COVID issues themselves as well. So yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with how the team is looking at the moment, but just wanted to reiterate, I haven't yet made the Kane to Ronaldo move, but I'm very likely going to be doing it. I think I'm still able to bring in the likes of Jared Bowen and other kind of key transfer targets moving forward, and so I don't think bringing in Ronaldo is going to affect my team structure too much, so more than happy to bring him in this game week. We'll get the vice captaincy, but yeah, very happy with how the team's looking for game week 16. what I'll get into now is a few other different topics, just some news to cover off for Game Week 16, because I think there's quite a few things that need to be discussed. So as I've kind of referenced so far in the video, a few COVID woes that I think we have to touch on in Game Week 16, and I think it's very important that we now see that this is happening because we're getting into a UK winter. I think the COVID cases, especially with this new variant, they seem like they're going to be continuing to grow, and I think we're going to be seeing more fixture disruption. So just to kind of recap what the current situation is at Tottenham. So the top screenshot there is actually the announcement by Tottenham themselves, so it's an official announcement. Basically, their midweek European fixture has been called off due to the COVID issues that Spurs have had. Now, there's been a few players rumoured to have it. Son was one of them, Ben Davies was another. I don't want to speculate too much, but it seems like the rumour is true that someone like Son and Davies has got it. Antonio Conte actually did give a press conference as well, where it seems like actually potentially a player who's at training or left training did later confirm to be positive. So unfortunately, it could seem that there's a big outbreak happening at Spurs. So I think if there's any speculation around, your Spurs players, and I think if you're umming and ahhing around whether to hold or sell, it seems like they're going to be a sell, but definitely I think I would advise still waiting for further updates towards the closer to deadline. But yeah, it seems like there's a big issue happening at Spurs. There's going to be a lot of fixture disruption. It seems as though the game against Brighton this weekend is going to be called off, and given that there's a short turnaround next week for their game against Leicester, it is a potential as well that game is also called off, because you can see there in the bottom screenshot, Leicester are having some COVID issues themselves. They've got 7 first-team players not available for their midweek European fixture, and it's due to COVID and a mixture of illness as well. So it just seems like Tottenham, are going to be missing the next couple of games. Even the game against Liverpool on the following weekend. Given the time frame, I think the potentially might be okay to play that game, but I think it's just a case of hold your transfers if you can. I think what this will lead to in the future as well is potential double or even triple game weeks for Spurs. It seems like game week 21 is something that's been quoted. I think as we get closer to that, we'll definitely make note of that. So I think Ben Krellin on Twitter, I'll put his link in the description below. He is the #1 account to follow on Twitter for any kind of fixture disruption, fixture rescheduling. He's the master of that, and so he'll keep you up to date on all the good double game week and triple game weeks, but I'll also give my assistance on that wherever I can. So just wanted to also show one of Ben Krellin's tweets as well. This is the kind of mastery he does on Twitter. So another key update as well is actually the potential African Cup of Nations is potentially going to be actually moved forward a few days. It was supposedly, I think January 9 was the start date. It looks like they're actually preponing that potentially to January 3. Now, this is just speculation. I don't think it's actually been confirmed. But as Ben's tweet there, if it's true, any players who are eligible for AFCON, they could potentially be unavailable from Game Week 19. As you can see there, Game Week 19, if they have to leave for AFCON earlier than December 27th, otherwise Game Week 20, Game Week 21, Game Week 22, and Game Week 23, depending on what stage of the actual tournament they get into, they could be unavailable for. So I think if you've got any kind of transfer dilemmas where you're kind of 50-50, maybe it is actually worthwhile now not selecting the player who's potentially looking to go for AFCON. So I think the biggest example of that is probably Dennis or King from Watford. Given that King is now 5.8, Dennis is 5.7, I believe, I'd probably now just pay the extra 0.1 and get King. Even though Dennis is not confirmed to actually play for Nigeria, I think he's been named in their provisional squad, and so there is still potential for him to go away on African Cup of Nations duty. If I knew this, I probably might have opted to go for King, but it might not have worked with my transfer structure, but I think my squad's good enough overall to handle it. But yeah, again, another key piece of news that we need to keep our eye on, and so definitely stay up to date on this. And again, as I reference, hold your transfers or save transfers wherever you can, because it looks like there's going to be a lot of disruption happening in the next few game weeks. So the final kind of news roundup I wanted to touch on was some injury updates, because I think it might affect quite a few people's transfer decisions or also players in their current squad. So the first one is around Phil Foden. So first, he was subbed off at halftime in their Champions League fixture. Apparently, there was a bit of a knock on his ankle, but then it sounds like they're pretty confident that he can play on the weekend against Wolves. The problem is that it seems like he's got a niggle here and there, like in the last few weeks. So maybe there's still going to be some doubt. Again, have to wait for Pep Guardiola's press conference on Friday, see what he says about Foden. But it's not, I mean, it looks positive, obviously, from that update. But still, there could be something like Pep says, oh, we'll see how he goes. It's not the best update. So I think if you're in a 50-50 maybe between, bringing in like a Bernardo Silva or a Phil Foden, maybe it's safer to just go with Bernardo. Second key update I wanted to share was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. In the very, very last moments of the game in their Champions League fixture against Young Boys, he got carried away on a stretcher. It looked like a pretty bad injury. Now, that's unfortunate for him, obviously, but I know a few people have thought about potentially looking at bringing in Darlow, 4.4 million right back for United. if Wan-Bissaka looks to be out for quite a while, Dalot could potentially be nailed on as a right back, and at 4.4 million, he could be a good entry point into the Manchester United defence. We know that they've got good long-term fixtures, so he could be someone that you might want to be bringing in, say, for in a wildcard draft, or if you're just looking to kind of maybe downgrade one of your bigger at-the-back defenders, he could be someone who's perfect for that. So again, wait for some United press conference news, but it seems as though Dalot's place in the team is a little bit more secure. Now, the last one I kind of wanted to touch on as well was Leeds. So I think Leeds have actually looked pretty good in the past few weeks from a defensive standpoint. I think we kind of maybe have to rethink that now and see that without Calvin Phillips, apparently it looks like he could be out for 2 months. This is really, really unfortunate. Patrick Bamford, he scored that late equaliser. Apparently he got injured in his celebration, so he's now again out for a few weeks. So I think Leeds, just as they look like they were reloading, looking to get back into the swing of things, it seems as though they've been hit hard with injuries. It also coincides with their really, really tough fixtures. I think they've got Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool, and then Aston Villa. It's a really, really tough stretch of games for the next 5 game weeks. So I think if you're holding on to Rafinha, obviously if you've got enough good squad depth and you've got enough of the players that you like, you could bench him. But I think if you're looking to make way for the likes of Jared Bowen or a Man City midfielder, I think there's good scope to be selling Rafinha. That's what I've done. I feel very comfortable with it. And unfortunately with these injuries, it doesn't seem like Leeds are in the best place at the moment. So they're definitely also a team that we can target from an attacking point of view as well. So now the last thing I wanted to do as well was I wanted to actually build a bit of a Game Week 16 wildcard draft. So shout out to Elnor, who is in my comments. He mentioned that a wildcard draft would be really helpful. So I thought I'd put one together, but not for the sake of it, because I think building a wildcard draft is actually useful because it helps you see, like, if you were to build a perfect squad at the moment, you can compare that to your current team and you can see what kind of transfers would you need to do to actually get towards your future wildcard team. So I think it was a good exercise to do anyway. So thanks Anor for the suggestion, and hopefully this draft can give you some ideas. So in terms of the goalkeepers, I think the 2 goalkeepers that I decided on were between De Gea and Ramsdale. Now I've bought Ramsdale when he was 4.5 million, so I've got some value built up on him. So he is 4.7 for me, but if you're buying outright, he is 4.9 now. I think between 4.9 and 5 million for De Gea, I think I'd still stick with Ramsdale because, as I've spoken about previously, Arsenal can be a bit ropey at the back, but I think that actually opens up good opportunities for save points for Ramsdale. And we've seen, particularly in that game against Leicester, when he makes a lot of saves and keeps a clean sheet, he can definitely haul. He can get like a double-digit return. And I think even in games where he concedes, he can very easily get 3 or 4 points because he does make a lot of saves. I think Arsenal defense is still decent. They've still got some decent long-term fixtures as well. So I've still decided to go with Ramsdale. And the reason I didn't go with De Gea is that I think if potentially that Wan-Bissaka news is pretty serious, Dalot at 4.4 could be the best entry point into the Manchester United defense. So I think he's in the wildcard draft as well. I've gone cheaper at the back, although to be honest, I've still got 5 playing defenders. So Trent, Cancelo and James, I don't think I need to speak about too much. I think they're the best options from their respective teams. All have good attacking potential, teams all with good clean sheet potential as well. So I think there's no reason to change them on a wild card. Dalot, as I spoke about, I think he could be looking maybe more nailed on for United in that right back position. He's got good attacking potential as well, so I think he could be a perfect bench cover, or you could even play him. And then I've actually got Soufal as well at 4.7 million. So West Ham, they do have some defensive injuries. They've got quite a few injuries to some centre backs, so I don't think they're maybe the best clean sheet wise. But Soufal at 4.7, I think he could offer good value. I actually started the season with Soufal and I was a bit frustrated at times with the lack of clean sheets, but he does get far forward, and potentially if they do have defensive injuries, they could move to 3 at the back. If that's the case, Soufal could play as a right wing back, so he could be further up the field. Very good long-term fixtures for West Ham, so I do like Soufal. Obviously, if you don't have the team value that I had, this for reference, this team had 0.1 in the bank. You could obviously downgrade Soufal to like a Livramento. I don't think Livramento is the best kind of bench option at the moment when you've got Dalot at 4.4. If Spurs are able to kind of recover from this COVID issues relatively quickly, Ben Davies I think could still be a very good 4.4 million option as well. I think those are definitely better bench options than Livramento. So it does look a little bit big at the back still. You know, there's no real kind of cheapy 4.0 defender. But I think with this COVID issues happening, I've tried to build a wildcard draft where you've basically got all of your outfield players, they all play. So I think it's a little bit to cover off your kind of COVID issues, potential fixture reschedulings as well. So that's why I've kind of gone with a little bit more depth in the squad overall. Now midfield, I know I spoke about in my initial thoughts video about having big midfield. The way that the team's structured at the moment though, I couldn't quite afford it, but I've got all new main targets I think in terms of Salah, Jota, Bernardo Silva, who I think in my opinion, probably a little bit of bias, I think he's the best kind of Man City midfielder to go for. And then Jared Bowen, I think, is going to be exceptional value for West Ham's good fixtures. And then I've just got a 4.4 million midfielder. I didn't give that one too much thought. I've just stuck with Brownhill at the moment. Maybe keeping in mind that Burnley's fixture against Spurs did get called off. So there is potentially a double game week coming up for Brownhill down the line. So maybe that's enough of a reason to keep him in the midfield. But I think those midfield targets are pretty self-explanatory. Don't need to discuss them too much. And again, similarly in the forwards, I think Josh King, I've decided to opt with him instead of Dennis because there's that AFCON risk now for Dennis and the fact that they're very close in price. I did say King was 5.8. I put the screenshot together just before the price rise, but this team did have 0.1 in the bank. So you still would be able to afford King at 5.8. Antonio, I still think is going to be a good option moving forward. I think in terms of that mid-range price striker, it's either him or Watkins. I just feel like Antonio's got a little bit more potential to haul bigger than Watkins. Obviously, if Antonio's not working out, you could still make the downgrade to Watkins because he's a little bit more expensive. Ronaldo, I think I'm pretty confident now in him moving forward in terms of being in my own team and also in the wildcard draft as well. I know you can use the Ronaldo funds to bump up the midfield. The potential doubts around Foden though, it just means for me, I think if you start with Ronaldo, it's always easier to work backwards in terms of taking the money out of him, then adding it to midfield. If you do it the opposite way around, where you kind of spread your cash and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I need to get Ronaldo in, it becomes a lot harder then because his price will increase. And the fact is that United fan base globally is the most out of any of the Premier League teams. And so if there's any player who's probably going to have big swings in ownership and a lot of chances in, it's going to be Cristiano Ronaldo. He's just a household name. So that's kind of another thing why I wanted to keep Ronaldo in the wildcard draft. So Elnor, hopefully this wildcard draft gives you some ideas. In terms of comparing to my own team, it does definitely give me food for thought because I think in a few weeks' time, I'm definitely going to be looking to downgrade one of the Chelsea defenders, probably Marcus Alonso, maybe down to a Darlow or a Soufal, and I'm going to use those funds to upgrade my Mbeumo slot up to a Jared Bowen, and I've already got that kind of Watford forward in there. So I think overall it's actually not too dissimilar to my ideal wildcard draft, which gives me some confidence in my own team. Obviously that means there's going to be a bit of bias as well because I'm going to always be thinking about my own team when building a wildcard draft. But I do like the look of this team. It's got good squad depth, and hopefully Elnor, it gives you some food for thought in terms of how you might want to be changing your team up moving forward, and obviously for all of you guys out there watching the video as well. Alright guys, that's my Game Week 16 team selection and a bit of a preview. Hopefully you guys like the style of the video. I thought it'd be good to just cover off a few different topics, so if you enjoyed it, really appreciate a thumbs up. Helps me out on the YouTube algorithm, and do drop a like and give a subscription to the channel as well if you do enjoy the content. I'll see you all in the next video, and good luck for Game Week 16.